Parents adopted me as a child and took a DNA test. My birth mom found me and wants to reconnect, but her demands. I'm a 24M who was adopted when I was 6 years old. I've always felt incredibly lucky because my adoptive parents, who were in their late 20s when they took me in, have been nothing short of amazing. They've loved and supported me as if I were their own flesh and blood, and I've never felt like anything was missing in my life because of being adopted. Growing up, I had very minimal details about my adoption. I know that I was removed from my biological family by social services due to neglect and abuse, but I don't remember anything about my life before I was adopted. It's not something I've dwelled on much because I've never felt like I needed those missing pieces to feel complete or valued. Recently, out of simple curiosity, I decided to sign up for one of those at-home DNA testing kits. I wasn't looking for a reunion or any deep connection. I just wanted to know more about my genetic history, like why I was removed from my biological family, and if there were any medical issues I should be aware of. Honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone closely related to me, so it felt like a low-stakes way to get some answers. About 8 weeks after sending off the kit, I finally remembered to check the results, and to my surprise, I matched with my biological mother, BM. She had sent me a message saying she was overjoyed that I had done the test and that she desperately wanted to reconnect with me and the rest of my biological family. She mentioned that she's thought of me every day, that I was always loved, and even that I have a biological little brother who is very excited to meet me, something I didn't even know. Her message was really emotional and, to be honest, overwhelming. To me, she's a complete stranger, and reading those words didn't stir anything in me other than discomfort. I spent a lot of time crafting a thoughtful response to BM, explaining that while I appreciated her message, I wasn't interested in forming a relationship with her or any of my biological family. I made it clear that my reason for doing the DNA test was purely informational. I wanted to understand my past, maybe get some medical history, and learn why I was removed, but that was it. I apologized if my actions gave her the wrong impression. BM read my message and replied, saying that she'd be willing to give me all the information I wanted, but only if I agreed to meet her at a cafe to discuss our relationship further. I refused, telling her that I wasn't comfortable with a face-to-face meeting. I offered a phone call as a compromise but emphasized that I just wanted the information and then for both of us to move on with our lives. She outright refused to provide any information unless I agreed to meet with her in person and discuss our relationship. I talked to my best friend about this, and she sided with BM, saying that I was being unfair. She argued that by signing up for the DNA site, I had essentially opened the door to this kind of situation and that refusing to meet with BM now is like playing mind games and leading them on. So, Ida for not wanting a relationship with my biological mom after I signed up for the DNA testing site? Relevant comments where Op has replied, Queen_of_May 1987, NTA. She's holding your info hostage to get you to meet with her, which is her being TA. You were removed for a reason, and she probably wants to fill you with her version. Since you know her name, can you contact the agency that removed you to request the information? Oop, I could have always gone through the route of getting in touch with social services and seeing what they can tell me, though I am not sure how much they can share because of data protection, so I just thought it would be easier this way. Also, it would have been nice to hear it from my family's perspective, if you get what I mean. Riodek, as a fellow adoptee I vote NTA without question. You don't owe her anything. I'd argue she owes you information though. Something she did caused the adoption to happen and she's awful for holding that information hostage. Your friend is completely in the wrong and if they aren't adopted I'm not surprised about their opinion. A lot of non-adopted people have really weird opinions on how adoptees should feel and act. Classical one being that we should all feel grateful for our adoptive parents because they saved us. Oop, no they are not adopted, which may explain their perspective. They did annoy me though, calling me unfair for not having a relationship with them despite the fact it's not something I've ever wanted. It was unfortunate that BM saw I was on there and messaged me first, and I feel bad that it may have given her false hope. I wish I could have been the first to message to get it out there right away what I was expecting. Special 77, NTA. Fellow adoptee here, I did meet my birth mother when I was 16 and I've spent the following 16 years regretting it. Mine is selfish and manipulative and pulled the same trick I'll tell you everything when I see you nope. Do not engage. Half of what she told me was outright lies, and she's desperately tried to wedge herself into my life at every opportunity when I've made it clear I do not want her. How does it feel to be unwanted? Egg donor. Welcome to my world, I'm an adult, I have my own children now. My parents were wonderful people. I didn't have the best life ever or anything but I was raised by people who loved me and wanted the best for me. It's hard, your BM has expectations and you have different ones. The thing is, she's being unrealistic and unreasonable by holding the info you want hostage. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. It's not right of her and it's not fair to you. Oop, I understood that what she would have told me wouldn't have likely been the objective truth. But I was interested in hearing it from her anyway. In some ways I suppose I was a little curious about her and her life but I didn't want a relationship with her at this point in my life. But that wouldn't have been me saying never, and she didn't tell me how old her other son is but depending I would have possibly been willing to meet him at least. The fact that she tried to force my hand has left a really sour taste in my mouth, and has made the whole thing icky. I think I have decided I am going to write her a final message about how I didn't appreciate being told I would only be allowed that information if I met up with her and discussed a relationship with her. I think I will say it comes across as manipulative, and that is what put the final nail in the coffin that I certainly don't want anything to do with her. But does that seem too much? I'm not going overboard by saying that to her, am I? Update 1, August 27, 2024. Hey, everyone. It's been about 9 days since I last posted, and I thought it was time for an update. I really want to thank everyone who took the time to comment and offer advice. I've read through everything, and it's been both helpful and eye-opening. So, after all the advice and some serious thinking, I decided to talk to my biological mom again, hoping that maybe if I explained myself better, she'd understand where I was coming from. Unfortunately, things went downhill fast. Instead of trying to meet me halfway, she just got more manipulative, insisting that I was being selfish for not wanting to meet her in person. She refused to give me any information unless I agreed to her terms, which was a hard no from me. I've come to realize that I was pretty naive to think that my biological family might be decent people after everything. I mean, I was removed from their care for a reason, but I guess a part of me wanted to believe that people can change. Looking back, I feel kind of dumb for even starting this whole journey. It's brought up a lot of emotions that I wasn't really prepared to deal with, and to be honest, I'm feeling pretty down about the whole situation. And as for my best friend, well, that's another disappointment. She didn't just side with my biological mom initially, she's been unsupportive throughout this whole mess. Even after I told her about the latest conversation, she couldn't really understand why I was so upset. She kept saying that I should just give them a chance and not be so harsh. It's like she doesn't get how hard this is for me, and I'm starting to feel like she never really did. It's tough because I've always considered her one of my closest friends, but right now, I'm not sure she's someone I can rely on. After all this, I decided to sit down with my adoptive parents and talk everything over with them. I hadn't really opened up to them about how deep this was affecting me, but they were amazing, as always. They were upset when they heard how my biological mom was acting, and they reassured me that none of this is my fault. They reminded me that there's a reason I was removed from that situation, and it's not on me to fix it or make things right with people who've clearly not changed. Talking with them made me realize just how lucky I am to have them. They've been there for me every step of the way, and they made it clear that whatever happens, they're my real family, the ones who've loved and supported me no matter what. It's hard not to feel down after everything that's happened, but having them in my corner makes it a bit easier to cope. Honestly, I regret even starting this whole DNA journey. It's brought up more pain than I expected, and I can't help but wish I'd just left the past where it belongs. But at the same time, I'm grateful that it's reminded me of how blessed I am to have my adoptive parents. They're the ones who've always been there for me, and I couldn't ask for a better family. So, that's where I'm at. I'm going to focus on the people who truly care about me and let go of the rest. It's not easy, but I know I'm on the right path. Thanks again to everyone who reached out, it's really helped me feel less alone in all this. Take care, everyone. Update 2, August 27, 2024. Hey everyone, I've been thinking a lot about my family today, especially after everything that's been going on lately. It got me reminiscing about some of the best moments I've had with them. And there's one memory that stands out, something from when I was still a kid that I'll never forget. I must have been about 8 years old, just a couple of years after I was adopted. It was around Christmas time, and I remember feeling nervous because it was only my second Christmas with my adoptive parents. Holidays always make me feel weird, even now. Anyway, my dad's friend owned a Christmas tree farm, and that year, my mom and dad decided to take me to pick our Christmas tree. We spent what felt like hours walking through rows and rows of trees. My parents kept asking me which one I liked best, and I remember feeling so much pressure, like I had to pick the absolute best one or else I'd ruin Christmas. But they were so patient, letting me take my time. Finally, I pointed out a tree. Honestly, it looked like every other one to me, but my parents made a huge deal out of it. My dad knelt down to start sawing, and I remember him pretending to struggle, saying, "Oh no, I think this tree might be too strong for me." My dad made me come over and help me, saying he couldn't do it alone. So, there I was, this little 8-yo, pretending to help my dad saw down this tree. Of course, I wasn't actually doing anything, but they made me feel like I was the strongest kid in the world. When the tree finally fell, my dad swept me up in his arms and spun me around, saying, "We did it." After we got home and set up the tree, my mom brought out these old boxes full of ornaments. She told me that we were going to start a new tradition. Every year, we'd each pick out one new ornament to add to the tree, something that represented something special from that year. That night, they handed me my very first ornament, a little wooden bear holding a heart with the word family carved into it. My mom said, "This one's for you, because you made our family complete." I remember holding that ornament, feeling this huge wave of love and belonging that I'd never really felt before. At the time, I don't think it even hit me how impactful that was. How that moment defines the way I look at myself today. I was part of a loving family. I was their family. Every Christmas after that, we'd pull out that little wooden bear and hang it up first. It became our tradition. The reason I've been thinking about this memory today is because it's a reminder of how lucky I am to have the parents I do. They didn't just give me a home, they gave me a sense of belonging and they gave me love. Even with everything that's been going on, I know that I've got something really special, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Anyway, thanks for letting me share this. I just needed to remind myself how amazing my family is, and I hope it brings a smile to your face like it does to mine. Next story. Caught an STD and found my wife's secret diaries. She has been cheating for years with multiple partners. I'm in shock and I really need some advice right now. Me, 40M, and my wife, 37F, have been married for 10 years, and we recently celebrated our anniversary. We have 2 wonderful kids together. Since the beginning of the year, things have been off between us. She's been acting strangely since the beginning of the year, irritable, avoiding me, and we haven't been intimate much. Some days she's happy, some others fully irritated. Sometimes she's a great mother to our kids, some other times she wishes they had never been born. Recently, I had to go to the urologist for a urinary tract infection, and the test suggested it might be an STD. This was a huge shock because I've never been with anyone other than my wife since we started dating. Right now, she's away at a so-called business seminar, of which I talked about in a different post. She has been keeping diaries for over a decade, and out of desperation, I read them for the first time ever. It turns out she's been having multiple sexual partners for the past 2 years. In particular, there was one affair that lasted over a year, and it seems part of her irritability was due to her lover moving on to someone else. I also discovered she has a hidden Tinder account too and been meeting with other men regularly. I am devastated beyond words. I feel lost and unsure of what to do, especially since we have 2 little kids who mean the world to me. I need some advice on how to handle this situation. Should I confront her immediately? Should I consult a lawyer first? How do I even begin to process this betrayal and protect my kids through all of this? Thank you for any guidance you can offer in this incredibly difficult time. Additional information from OOP. Thank you for all the comments. As everyone's suggesting, I'll try to consult discreetly with a lawyer ASAP, gather as much evidence as I can, get the STD treated, and, as painful as it is, perform paternity tests on my kids. To be honest, I'm a complete mess right now and cannot think properly. All kinds of thoughts are crossing my mind. Part of me still loves her and wants to forgive her, the other is just full of disgust and hatred, and wishes I've never even met her at all. I wish I could just disappear right now. Update, September 11, 2024. Thank you all for your invaluable advice and support. It has been a tremendous help during this difficult time. After my last post, my in-laws kindly offered to look after the kids while my wife was away at her seminar. They remain unaware of the turmoil I've been experiencing. I used this time to go through her diaries and take pictures of their contents. Each entry felt like a stab in the back, leaving me in a state of shock and disbelief. I just don't recognize anymore the person I thought I knew and loved for over a decade. To avoid going into too much detail, the revelations in the diaries would make any movie or TV series I've ever seen pale in comparison. She has been involved with at least 6 different men over the past 2 years. These affairs occurred not only during her so-called seminars but also during short business trips, dinners, and other supposed work-related events. Meanwhile, I was at home, taking care of the kids and naively believing I was supporting her career. Some entries vividly describe how great these encounters were for her, all while expressing gratitude towards me for being a devoted husband and father, without a single trace of remorse. This lack of guilt and the extent of her deception make me question her emotional and mental state. While reading through the diaries, I felt an overwhelming sense of despair and was seriously contemplating suicide. In the end, I sought refuge with friends for a few days, as I felt I couldn't be alone, otherwise I'd do something that could never be taken back. They really supported me a lot during this time and helped me get in contact with a therapist. I'm now taking regular therapy sessions once per week. They also helped me in getting in touch with lawyers specializing in divorce. I'm also getting treatment for my STD as well. Returning home after picking up the kids from my in-laws was an emotionally devastating experience. I couldn't bring myself to smile at all. At some point, while contemplating all the possible ways I could end my life, my daughter just looked at me and saw my face. Without saying a word, she just came over and wrapped her arms around me. At that moment, I broke down, held her tightly and burst into tears in front of her. She's my sweet angel, and the shame of having considered leaving my kids to suffer under their mother's disdain was almost too much to bear. For the first few weeks after finding out, I could barely sleep at all and had to depend on sleeping pills just to get through the nights. My motivation was at an all-time low, affecting both my home life and my work. I forced myself to continue exercising, and found out it was the only thing that actually made me feel better during this time. To whoever said in the previous post that I shouldn't give up on doing exercise, thank you, you may have just saved my life. The stress intensified after my wife returned from her trip. Initially, it took all my energy to hide my disgust at her and the knowledge I had gained about her actions. I've somewhat got used to this now, but it remains emotionally draining. She did notice that something was off, but still appears to believe that I am entirely unaware of what has transpired. Her lack of shame is staggering. Just recently, she asked me to buy her the expensive gift I promised her for our 10-year anniversary, for which I made an excuse to not buy yet, despite her going into another business trip just the day after our anniversary, which was described in extremely painful detail in her diaries. To make matters worse, she was even arranging to meet her latest partner on the day of my birthday. Nowadays I've started to feel a lot better, thanks to exercise and therapy. I had never been to a therapist before in my life, and to be honest, I am regretting not having done it sooner. Despite my wife betraying me in the worst possible way, part of me still thought that maybe all of this was my fault. Maybe if I had done this. If I had put more effort into that, I blamed myself for a lot of things. My therapist helped me see through it that, while I could have done some things differently, in the end, I cannot be held responsible for the actions she chose to take, and no one deserves to be betrayed in the way I was. If I'm at fault for anything, it's for blaming myself for everything, always putting her needs ahead of my own, and trusting her unconditionally without question. While it was extremely hard for me to balance work and looking after the kids alone every time she went on any of these trips, I always let her go after convincing myself that I was doing it for her, to support her business, to let her relieve stress from being at home, that this is what a supportive husband would do, and that if maybe I had a better job or made her happier, she wouldn't feel the need to escape from home. I'd be lying if I said I'm not depressed anymore, but I'm certainly doing much better these days. Nowadays, I feel more rage rather than sadness, and it is the rage that's keeping me going. My therapist advised me to channel this rage into the things I do, which has worked surprisingly well. I talked with 2 law firms about my situation, and was advised to collect more evidence, which I've been devoting myself to for the past few weeks. I've finished digitizing all of her diaries from the past 2 years, which were quite a lot. I got access to her computer, and found just way too many photos, chat conversations and documents to help my case. She's been posting all of her adventures into a very distorted private group in Facebook, to which I've also taken plenty of screenshots of. I've compiled a list of all of her sexual partners in the diaries, and have been identifying them one by one on social media, etc. I've gathered everything I could on her current sexual partners, and managed to figure out where they live and or work. Now I'm debating whether I should confront them or not. The things I've read in these diaries are so bizarre that I thought maybe she was just writing material for some sort of twisted novel. That is, until I found all the other stuff in her computer, etc. Maybe I'm broken myself as well, but a part of me is actually enjoying this process of gathering all these tiny pieces of evidence and information, cross-referencing them with her diaries and finding everything I can about her and her lovers. Part of me wants to see her burn on social media by posting directly everything I've found out, since a big part of her business is centered around social media, but I'm refraining myself from doing so since this would also affect both me and the kids, as well as her parents, who have been nothing but kind to me since we got married. I'm also not sure if I should bring this to light to her parents as well, since this will probably devastate them. I'm planning on confronting her after talking further with the lawyers about how to make sure to gain custody of my kids. The country I live in has a rather unfair tendency of granting custody to the mother, even if she's unfit for it, setting the terms of the divorce and child support. In any case, thank you all for the advice. A few weeks ago I was in full despair, and had no idea what to do nor how to approach the situation. Nowadays, I feel that little by little I'm digging myself out of this hole I've been thrown into. Sorry if I don't respond to all your comments. Right now, my full attention is devoted to protecting my kids.